Hey, everybody. Welcome to a Tech Tuesday talk with Enzu. Today, we are going to go over edge computing and who the buyer is. I think that for the partner community might be really interesting, who we see looking for services, the types of questions they're going to ask, and sort of what to expect when you go after particular kinds of buyers. This presentation will be made available to any of you who participate, and we will be able to show you guys sort of what's going on here. So let's get into this, right? So what does bare metal do? What does edge computing do for your customer? So as you see from the title, the edge is built on bare metal. Bare metal is at the foundation, what makes private cloud and everything else work, right? It is the foundation of all solutions. It's essentially a server, an empty server. For those who question what it is and how it works, that's the simplest explanation. It's no operating system, nothing on it, just ready to go to build however you want. The beauty of this is it gives you the option to build cloud native applications and to build network edges and firewalls and all those things right on it. Because essentially all that is built right on bare metal, always has been. What is old is new again. But what does it do for your customer, right? You're out prospecting, you're trying to figure out who's going to buy this. Well, they're currently using in-house servers. It keeps them out of the lift and shift game, right? So that's a hassle every time they have to upgrade hardware. Every time they have to make a change, right? They go through and do that entire lift and shift. It eliminates a lot of the lengthy quoting, procuring, deployments, all those things. So, and then currently we have some pretty interesting shortages still. Hopefully that ends soon. We'd all like it to end soon. It does impact us, but we did buy a ton of hardware and we continue to buy. So we buy in bulk, and when it's available, we buy and stock that hardware. So we have a few $1 million worth of hardware laying around that's ready to be deployed for customers. So that's a good thing. So if they're struggling to get, say, a Fortinet firewall, they can buy metal and just launch Fortinet's virtual firewall on it, and then it becomes a Fortinet firewall, right? So you just build it to the right spec to manage throughput, performance, speed, and all the things that they need. It does speed up time to deployment, and it does that significantly. Some of the metal is sitting ready to go. It is on demand. It is just days. It is the longest part of it will be negotiating the contract. Even when we had to get to Hong Kong between contract and delivery, we were able to accomplish that in just a few weeks. And customs is always going to be an issue. In this particular case, we got through very well with no hassles, and we were able to get it deployed and get going. The other thing is it helps them build closer to their end user. And this is what the rest of this presentation is really going to be about. Edge computing is about end user feel, the tangibility when you're touching your phone and you're pushing an app, and what does that feel like? What is the user experience? And that is why you have a lot of different types of buyers, because that's a lot of what they're after with edge computing, right? They would just build a big core if latency wasn't going to become an issue, depending on how their end users interact with the application, right? One of the things about our particular bare metal offering is it's incredibly feature rich. You can fully configure and customize the hardware, every aspect of it, network cards, CPU RAM, disk space, the type of processor you want, the type of storage you want. Do you want M2 chips for a boot drive because you're going to build something like DAS? Do you want NVMe for high performance storage because it's a cloud native application that just needs to be able to move really fast and deliver to that end user an experience that is second to none for them, so their product can grow, right? You use cloud native applications every day when you touch your phone, a significant amount of them, as a matter of fact. And those applications don't require an OS. They don't require VMware and an OS and all those things to perform. They're designed to run directly on the metal. More and more of this is happening today because, one, it's more cost effective to deliver. I mean, you go out and you try to deliver a $5 a month app, and you deliver that with $1 million VMware bill, and you realize you can't deliver the $5 million app anymore, right? So you see this cloud native application stuff exploding. Part of its cost. It also has to do with performance, right? You get a higher level of performance because you don't have all those things going on. We have a one-click installer built in. You do want an OS, great. You want to run KVM, great. You want to do all those things. There's one-click installer for lots of different, more than 40 OSs available in the market space to put on if you need them. And multiple hypervisors are available as well. So are you building a Windows-based DAS delivery product? Then you are going to need a hypervisor. Then you are going to need an OS, right? And so all that is available. Are you delivering a cloud native application? You may just want a little Red Hat orchestration tool and off to the races you go. So, right, those are the different ways. So it's incredibly feature rich. And it works really well. We're here, we're your 24/7 IT team. We do manage all the way to the OS and hypervisor if you need us to, right? The other thing is you have full root access on bare metal. You should anyway, but you have full root access. And we don't put all of our customers in like a third-party support structure and out-of-band support structure. And we don't put our customers in tier 1 IT support every time that they show up, which is good for your customers. So when you sell that customer, they can call up and say, I have a problem. It's on this particular machine. It's on this particular board. It's in this particular port, and I need it changed. It's failing. We'll go do that change. We believe that most end users actually understand what they're doing and why and can give us the details we need to go fix it. So that's also pretty feature rich when you think about the feature of support. Okay. Let's talk about some buyers real quick. An IT buyer want to be something like an IT management shop, somebody who's delivering a product, right? So they managing products, delivering products, they need controllers, or they're delivering, in this case, it's desktop as a service to their end user in significant quantities around the globe. One of these is example of one we did is a Hong Kong call center. They're an MSP. They build out these call centers for organizations of pretty significant size. And they needed to shift from an underperforming environment, right? They didn't have the cycles. They can't buy hardware fast enough, deliver it to their end users, and create the correct experience. They were up against Azure desktops. So the customer started to explore Azure desktops to try to improve that. But Azure has, as far as an edge goes, a much smaller delivery of edge. So the latency was significantly larger because of where the data centers exist. They have mega data centers, just less of them. We are a much smaller data center footprint, a lot more of them. So we get out closer to the edge. So we'll get into a different buyer that actually is really important to as far as a hybrid build. But in this case, this got them right out to within about 24 milliseconds round trip of their client. This significantly improved the user experience in desktop, went through a POC, right? And so you start to see why the edge matters. What happened when you built a correct edge? We deploy and manage that hardware. They overlay Citrix, they overlay VMware, whatever they want on it to build their environment, and then they delivered a desktop experience to their end user. We also completely manage the network for them, including all the network cards and routing tables and things like that they needed. So that's something that's available. And we also mounted an iSCSI SAN to this bare metal environment. And this is actually an advantage when delivering desktop as a service. They're not consuming resources for storage in a hyper-converged environment. In this case, they're able to take advantage of the economy of scales and put more desktops on that particular piece of metal, on that hardware. And the storage performance is still excellent for desktop usage, right? It's not going to have any major problems. Now, if you were going to deliver this desktop probably as a graphics intensive solution, you wouldn't want to do this necessarily this way. But this is a call center end user applications. They're going to be using some kind of software and things like that. So a buyer this is a buyer that's actually reselling, but there are a lot of these buyers out there. Every one of these examples is going to be an example that fits the channel very well. You work with these types of organizations every day, and they're buying stuff. And so what I'm saying is, here's maybe a chance to sell them something else that you haven't considered, hopefully, or if you have considered it, now you have another option to provide to them. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about buyer number 2 here. Application developers, gamers, cloud native application builders. You know, when I say application developers, let's talk TikTok. It's on here, Facebook. These are all applications that you touch and use on your phone every day. Adobe has, I don't know, I have the Adobe suite. You know, as a hobby, I do a YouTube channel. I do lots of editing and Illustrator, and I really enjoy it. And I will tell you, I have 47 apps available to me within that suite, and they work on my desktop. They integrate and work correctly on my phone, and they integrate and work correctly in other environments in when I log in from somewhere else. So these applications are all available to me in a hybridized environment. Now, depending on where I am, they're going to want me to have a really good experience. So they might have all my stuff stored somewhere, but then all my access and viewing and behavioral happen out on an edge somewhere. Right. So you think about how the applications work like this, and they might deliver that, you know, they might make updates on some kind of container system. Actually, I don't know. I've never met with Adobe, not for this, for something else. And so it would be really fascinating to dig into that world. So clients can be of all sizes. There are a lot of gamers, and there are a lot of applications, and they start out. This is how this buy cycle works for this buyer. They go buy the cheapest hardware they can buy, and they stick it in a closet and they build it. And because their funding doesn't allow them to go out and build this, you know, thing out in Azure, AWS, or with some other provider like us, none of that. They then go through their phase where they're incredibly elastic, right? So they go and they stick it in some kind of hyperscaler, and it just, if they hit, they need resources right now. So they need that elasticity. So this is their buying phase. And then they become more stable if they hit. And all of them pretty much go through this cycle. Now they start repatriating off of the hyperscaler and coming back to some provider, and they need to start building little pods all over the place because they need to start speeding up the end user experience. They have that many end users, and those end users want to make it feel very fast. And the only way to do that is to be closer, especially as they become more en masse. And so this buyer looks for that kind of deployment. They'll also often deploy in a hybrid environment. So you're going to see that they're going to have a private cloud or some kind of core infrastructure. It might run in the hyperscaler. They're going to use a container, Docker, Kubernetes, whatever it is, to deploy out onto their edges. And that's all going to be built out on Metal. And their application is going to be in that container and running out on the edge. And so you're going to interact with the edge, and then they're going to interact from their edge to their cores and manage that, right? And it's all about cross-connecting speed and performance internally while giving the end user the experience of the interface being very close. You know, caching was a thing for a long time. It still is. Like in certain technologies, like in countries that have to run on satellite, it's incredibly important that they cache correctly. So this is why those edges can become really important, because you don't want the latency of satellite added to the latency of getting back across continents. So you would build an edge like in South Africa. You would build a big edge and you would have all your customers attached there. And then that would get moved out to the end users however they got to it. And it would improve their overall experience. They would use centralized computing. It is all about cloud native applications and the regionalization of hardware. And it is, as we've discussed, it is all about the customer experience, the end user experience, right? And if their end user experience isn't premium, then their game or their application or their interaction, it just goes away. They don't write these for, quite frankly, for people my age. And so it's you need to be on it now with people who can learn at an incredible rate of speed, know how to use the environment. If we go back, for those of us who've been doing this for 20 plus years, gaming has always been a thing. And I used to sell DS3s into the gaming world. When everybody else would buy a T1 and live with the problem, the gaming world did not. They would consume DS3s. I mean, sometimes buying multiple a month in order to get enough bandwidth to get end user performance. It was a thing in 1999 when I was selling DS3s then. It's always been a thing. This is just the way they buy now, is get closer to the end user. They still buy a lot of big bandwidth, but now they need to get really close to their end user, because those things matter. You watch kids play games and they'll do anything for that game to react faster so they can win. And that's one of them right there. So we're going to talk about buyer 3 real quick. This is emerging at an incredible rate. We are seeing more and more of this business today. The articles that are being written about it are just exploding, and we are seeing opportunities regularly flowing in, and this is going to be a big wave. The network carriers, they're coming and they're building their own clouds, and they buy metal from people and turn that into a private cloud, a multi-tenant cloud, whatever they build outward for their client base. It's been going on for a long time. The data center providers are doing it. They either buy their own or they're partnering with organizations like ours, but now the carriers are in the game, right? It's not that Lumen hasn't always been there, they have, but now all of them are headed into this space. It's a shift in the market space. The MSPs are doing this as well. We're seeing more and more and more MSPs go out and build network edges for their clients to get back to them, right? So think about a router is something built on a server. A firewall is something built on a server. Network access points give them a way to build multiple points of presence around the globe for less money, and they can connect to multiple carriers depending on the appliance that they buy. So they might get blended bandwidth, then they might connect to, say, Hurricane, and then they might connect to AT&T, and they can do all this on multiple 40 gig cards and bond all that up and build their own network pops. Right? So they're building a network edge, and at that edge, they'll buy a stack and turn it into compute, their version of compute. Whatever it is they're building, they'll turn it into their version of compute. They're staying relative, they're staying competitive, they're growing their market share, right? Instead of letting, as people are repatriating, the carriers want that business. They want to consume what is leaving the hyperscale. Hyperscalers aren't going away, they're amazing at what they do. But there are companies that don't want to run certain things on that environment anymore, whether it's a cost constraint, whether it's a performance issue needing to be closer to their end user, as we've already discussed. There's reasons. It's not because they're bad at what they do. There's real business reasons to buy the right type of cloud to deploy on. And this bare metal edge is for this buyer. They are buying at a high rate right now. It is a big growth business. I've read as of recent, over the next 3 years, like $27.5 billion is going to be invested into this by the carriers. So I think we're already seeing the leads coming back from partners who knew that this space was happening and are looking to help build out global network pops. And they are building city by city. I mean, they'll build one in 4 cities that aren't far enough apart for you to think that it would matter. But it has to do with what they're building for their end user base, and to be able to get network back onto their access back onto their network would be the right way to say that. So this is a great buyer, and you're going to be able to hunt this down. Now, I think the thing is, when we talk about questions, when you're prospecting for these kind of all these different buyers, the thing is, are you currently trying to build an edge computing system? Do you have a need for, access all around the world? How can you help be part of their bare metal deployment? Bare metal and edge computing are essentially synonyms today, because edge computing is built on a metal platform. Metal is the term that has always been around. Edge computing is, I think, the modern way to say it. We'll call it the modern term. And it is growing in popularity. It's something I hope many of you take advantage of. These are just 3 buyer types that I thought I'd share today. So you can go out and say, hey, prospect and hunt within these. There are several of us out there. We'd love to take a look at any opportunities that you have. We have an amazing team that is really good at this. We've been building metal platforms organizationally for a little more than 17 years. And this iteration of the business today is all about the mid-market and mid-enterprise space. We are geared for that. We have the hardware available for that. to help you guys sell the deals in the locations that they need to be sold in at price points that are highly competitive. Um, I really hope you guys enjoyed today's kind of walkthrough of buyer types, that you got information that you can use. I'm going to post this up on our YouTube channel. This will be available across multiple platforms to view. Please give any feedback that you can on this. What other things would you like to know? What other things about bare metal or edge or buyer types? What can we share with you to help empower you in the field in order to go out as the partner community and just crush it with the things that are current and happening right now? Thank you for the time today. And we look forward to getting in meetings, going through educational processes, and helping you close your customer deals.